Hello, welcome to the Citrus Garden. If you're new here, my name is Christina. If you're not new here, hi, welcome back. It's good to see you. This is a reading for Sagittarius moons, or if you have significant Sagittarius placements and are needing a feminine energy to work with or balance within yourself. So Sagittarius, we have a really interesting reading for you today. So we're starting off here with the blood and the summer card. This is the overall context of your reading. So both of these are very similar energy. It talks about like sort of like this, the life force and a full bloom kind of energy. It's really positive. I want to say that it's feeling like, I feel like you Sagittarius are in this really positive energy here with the summer card, right? It's like things that you are creating are working out. Like it's full bloom. A lot of like fiery energy coming in with the blood as well, like because that talks about sort of life force and physicality, which is really interesting. But then we also have the ash card here, which to me always talks about sort of like really old patterns, right? Like things that aren't serving us anymore, perhaps things that are needing to be let go and cleansed, especially because here with the tarot cards that I'm using, because we have here, first of all, I'm going to start in the middle here. We have the King and the Queen of Fire. So this is obviously your energy, Sagittarius. So because it's a moon reading, I'm going to place you as the Queen, but it could just be like two aspects of yourself, right? Like your feminine energy and your masculine energy. It could also be representing some sort of partnership as well. So there are hints of that in your reading, but it doesn't have to be that. It could just be talking about like union within self. So apply that to your life however it resonates. Then you have the Moon card that came out next to the Queen of Wands, and then the Nine of Swords that came out next to the King of Wands, and then the Chariot, which is talking about all this like forward momentum. But so how I'm seeing this is kind of like your feminine energy. It's like okay, so first of all, these fire cards are very positive momentum. This is all the blood summer energy, which is all of this sort of like a lot of momentum, a lot of movement, a lot of creational energies, feeling really good within yourself, I want to say. But then it's being sort of like sandwiched by the Moon and the Nine of Swords, right? So it's kind of like perhaps like in your feminine energies, there's this energy of like the Moon, which is, it could be, this one in this deck specifically talks to me about like feeling overwhelmed perhaps by emotional energies, just feeling like you can't move, or like just being underwater, that kind of thing. And then with the King of Swords, this talks about like, sorry, not the King of Swords, the King of Wands with the Nine of Swords talks about perhaps anxiety, right? So it's kind of like you this is your energy, absolutely. But perhaps part of the ash energy, right? Like the old patterns might be something to do with like this overwhelming anxiety perhaps that is perhaps preventing you from moving forward in the way that you want to go in. Maybe, but you do have the Chariot. So I feel like this reading here is wanting to address that a little bit. So that's the overall context of your reading. If we go into the current energy, so all five of the alchemy cards that I'm using came out at the same time. This one was flipped on like this way, right? So when it came out, this one was flipped and it fell on the floor. The Chaos card, which is the mass confusion card, which talks about the overwhelm, right? There's an overwhelming kind of energy here, which is kind of like the energy that sort of forces you to take time out, right? Because it's kind of like there's not really anything you can do when you're hit in this energy. In fact, if you were to try to do anything while you're in this state, it would almost be like counterproductive, or it would just add, it wouldn't accomplish anything, basically, is what this is feeling like. And so it's kind of like having to sit in this energy for a while. I want to say that this is clearing though, because the first card out that you have here is the separation, right? So I'm seeing this as being sort of like you're separating yourself from whatever this overwhelming energy is. And I don't know what that is for you. It's coming through in a really interesting way, actually. It's kind of like a party, which is not necessarily a bad thing, right? Like parties are meant to be fun, obviously, but there's, for me, as like a major introvert, it's like any sort of energy that has a lot of energies, like busy shopping malls or like big parties. I used to love going to concerts or like things like that, but now I feel like it would just kind of feel like this, like just chaos, right? Like there's just so much noise, so much energy, so much like that. It's that kind of thing. It's kind of like feeling like separating from that now, right? Perhaps because it's also coming through with this, the 10 of Pentacles, right? The 10 of Pentacles, and then this is you, the Knight of Wands. So I'm seeing this as being sort of like the 10 of Pentacles being kind of like just this energy of chaos, right? It's not a negative thing. So the word, I don't want to frame it as chaos because it's not necessarily something that's it's not like a tornado, right? It's just more so like, because there's a lot of energies here, it's just like difficult to think is kind of how that's feeling, right? It's difficult to think, or it's like the only thing you can hear is noise, is what this is feeling like. So you can't do anything. You can only just sit there and wait until this energy passes, right? And I feel like that's what you're being separated from, is kind of how this is feeling like with the Knight of Wands, because this is a very independent energy. So much fire in your reading today. But anyway, so it's coming through here. The first card, the Nourishment card. I love this card so much. It's so positive, right? It's all of this energy of like nourishment, of being fed, right? But it's because it came out underneath the chaos and sort of like the 10 of Pentacles. Because how I'm seeing this is kind of like, if there's like a lot of people in one environment, for example, it's like all of the energies get mixed in together, is kind of how that's feeling, which may be causing the overwhelm, is what that's feeling like. And an interesting message that came from the guidebook for this one is kind of like the idea of leaving a party when you still have 30% left in the tank, right? So there's enough for you to, it's kind of like leaving the party while your energy is full, right? So that you are left wanting more, is kind of how this is feeling like with the Nourishment. It's like you're left wanting more, but you're going off on your own, right? Because it's like you've gotten the nourishment that you need perhaps from this energy, and I feel like if you were to stay any longer, it would become like too much, or it would drain your energy in some way, or it would end up being sort of like this negative experience, is kind of how it's feeling. So I feel like you, Sagittarius, are leaving a group or leaving this energy in order to do something on your own, is kind of how it's feeling with the separation energy. Do something on your own is what that's feeling like, especially with these two cards. You have here the High Priestess and the Star card, which are really lovely energies, because this is kind of like, again, I'm framing this as like my experience as being a major introvert. Like this is bliss to me, right? Like this is just like after you've come home, you know, like how after if you've been to like a really loud concert and then you're by yourself and just like your ears are ringing, it's that kind of energy. Your ears are just ringing with almost like the echoes of this party or concert or some sort of gathering, right? Perhaps. And I feel like what it's showing you is that there's like this something that you've gained from this experience, is kind of how it's coming through, right? Like getting downloads, or like whatever that like ear ringing phenomena is. I've been trying to figure out what that is, because I have been experiencing that lately, just like having ear ringing phenomena. And I feel like it has to do something with like, it's kind of like, especially with the Star card here, you're connecting with some sort of energy, but perhaps not necessarily seeing what it is that you're connecting with, is kind of how it's feeling. Like you're getting some sort of information is reaching you, but perhaps not being able to translate what that is necessarily, or something like that. I feel like, and it's kind of like with the separation energy, you have to be apart from this group. the Ten of Pentacles in order to be able to hear what this is, because it's kind of like if all of this is going on, there's no way you're going to hear what this is, if that makes sense. And so it's kind of like having to separate from a group in order to get the message, I want to say. It kind of feels like that, which is really interesting. Because the next card out after the nourishment card was abundance, right? It's kind of like, so I know that these are not shells with the jars sort of pouring into one another, but it's kind of like what this is feeling like is like you taking your jar away from this group, right? Because kind of like, it's kind of feeling like there's something that you are giving to this group is what this is feeling like. There's something about like you're providing some sort of energy to this group that also feeds it, right? Like you're feeding part of this group, they're also feeding you. It's that kind of energy. But because this energy around you, this environment or whatever it is, whatever this Ten of Pentacles is, this party or concert or gathering, is so loud that it's preventing you from hearing this, is what this is feeling like. So much synchronicity with the shell coming in, because I have another deck with the shell that talks about sort of, it has silence in it, right? That's the card. That's what the shell represents, silence. That in order to hear what's inside the shell, it has to be completely quiet in your environment. Absolutely, that's what this is talking about. And I feel like with all of these sort of pearls, right? There's an abundance of information for you, but it's kind of just like you haven't had the opportunity perhaps to figure out what that is yet, I want to say. Okay, and so the next couple cards, that's so interesting how this message shifted, because when I first pulled the cards, so I'm recording this video later than I normally do, because when I first pulled them, there was a clear message, but now I took a break because this energy, that's what this energy is. You have, like, if there's any sort of overwhelm, it's kind of like you just gotta sit with it until that energy passes, because then the true message becomes clear, because it's so interesting that this message is totally shifted now. Okay. Anyway, so the Despicable Face, which is quickly becoming one of my favorite cards out of this deck. It's coming through with a different message. So it comes through as being sort of this energy that of something that we want to hide from others because it could potentially cause like feelings of like shame or guilt, or like things that we don't want others to see about ourselves. How I'm seeing this though actually is kind of like, because Sagittarius, there's this energy of like, this is the group, but it's kind of like in what you're being asked to do maybe is to almost like hide your energy away from them, if that makes sense. Right? It's almost like going off, like, because it's kind of like telling you, Sagittarius, you should leave the party while you're still having fun, because if you stay too long, you're going to deplete yourself or whatever. And I feel like it's here, what this card is saying is to like hide your energy because there's something else that's calling you here with the antimony. This card talks about like being called towards some sort of perhaps like creative endeavor or something like that. It's like whatever is calling you out of this space is this energy, the antimony card, which talks about sort of like a very deep dive into some sort of creative process is kind of how it's coming through today, which is so interesting. And it feels like you need to be in this energy of silence in order to figure out what that is. It's like you almost have to go, it's almost like it kind of, because it's not just a hermit mode, right? It's not just hermiting. You're because hermiting almost is like feeling like, hermiting to me represents sort of going inward and being silent to figure, like, just to get some healing or peace or quiet or rest. It's a very non-active energy, but because you're coming in with this, all of this King and Queen of Fire, it's talking about something creative, some sort of passionate creation. So I feel like you're actually going to be doing something is kind of how this is feeling. Like it's not a hermiting mode. You're just separating yourself from a group in order to create something. And I feel like the reason why is this, which is so interesting to me. So first you have here the Lover's energy and the Five of Pentacles, which is so interesting because these are very opposites. And then the Four of Wands and the Ten of Burdens. So because you have here this next card, the Sulfur card, which is talking about sort of like, it's again, more of this sort of like, feels almost like a release of some sort of creativity, because it kind of feels like there's been, because it comes through as with the energy of like a geyser, right? Like a sudden explosion, but it also comes through with this energy of like both and, right? There's like sometimes medicine, something that's healing is kind of unpleasant at first. So it's kind of like there's this energy here of like a both and, which is all of this. It's like you have the Lover's energy, but then you also have the Five of Pentacles, which is like, this is the healing energy. This is the thing that sucks about it, is kind of how it's feeling. So it could be that, so again, there are hints of a relationship. It doesn't have to be though, but I want to say it's like whatever this creative process is, or perhaps a creative partnership of some sort, or a relationship, or whatever. It could even just be like a project that you're working on is what's being represented by the Lover's energy. So it's like, this is the thing that you're going towards. This is the thing that's calling you. But in order to do that, you'd have to be in this energy, the Five of Pentacles, of being apart from this group, whatever this represents, right? So it's kind of like you're in this energy, you're going towards this energy. This is what you'll encounter, but you have to be apart from this. It's kind of how that's feeling, which is really interesting. And then you also have here the Four of Wands. The Four of Wands and then the Ten of Wands. So again, these are kind of, this is the kind of like the both and, right? This is the energy that you're wanting to create, especially with the Lovers, especially with all of this Wands energy that's coming through. So the Four of Wands talks about a celebration, right? It's kind of, but how I'm seeing this is like, it's almost like these two energies are the Star energy. It's like, this is something that hasn't perhaps been created yet, but it's like, this is the dream, or this is what you're moving towards, or whatever that is. Because I'm seeing this Four of Wands as sort of being like a new start or something like that, because it just in comparison to this card, right, where it's kind of like, this is full already, this is a full manifestation. There's a lot of perhaps energy here that is nourishing to you in some way, but I want to say that it's like, it's not, this is calling you instead, is kind of how this is feeling. I feel like there's nothing necessarily wrong with this energy. It's not like there's anything negative about it, or like toxic or whatever. It just feels like there's something that you're meant to create, Sagittarius. There's something that you are meant to create independent from this group, and that means in order to create this thing, you would have to start again, or you would have to be apart from that group, because this is kind of just like an empty landscape or something, right? Like it's kind of like that. I want to say as well that, because this at first was kind of coming through as like another person, perhaps, another person, or like an out, it doesn't have to be though, right? It kind of just, I'm just gonna, because with the Ten of Wands here, so these two cards is kind of looking like, this is you, Sagittarius, right? Like going off on your own. How I'm seeing this is actually, it's like, you have these wands here, right? There's something about like packing up all of your things or something like that in order to like break ground on whatever this dream is. Because I'm seeing this as almost like, this is the future event. This is you leaving that group, right? The Ten of Wands. I want to say as well though, because it's kind of feeling like because this is you, Sagittarius, with the Knight of Wands. You notice there's 4 wands here, right? So it's feeling like you're having to pack up this energy, because I feel like this is what you're contributing to this group, right? It's like this is the nourishment. You're one of these jars, right? You're what you bring perhaps is some energy of like, perhaps like fun or lightheartedness, or like there's something that you bring that is being represented by the Knight of Wands into this group that provides nourishment to them. And I feel like this is something that you're almost having to like pack up in order to bring it to this, right? Because it's, and I feel like that might be this is kind of causing a little bit of anxiety, I want to say. It's kind of like, because it feels kind of like you, Sagittarius, are sensing on some level that perhaps the group that you're leaving behind would suffer in some way. Maybe, or they would just, there's this feeling, because it was kind of feeling like the very first part of this message, like when the cards first came out, is kind of like, I was seeing this as almost like a friend group, right? There's like 3 people in the friend group. The two of them have started a relationship, and so one's on the outside. That's just one example. I don't know if that's still true in this part of the message, because the message has shifted dramatically since I first pulled the cards, but it could be. So that might be for like one of you. Anyways, what I'm seeing here though is that, like with the 10 of Wands, is that you're being called to create something incredibly, like, I don't know, just, I want to say like very fulfilling, right? Something that's like incredibly fulfilling. It's like if you, and the thing about this antimony card is that it's best expressed through your creative expression. And it's also saying that it's an energy that if you ignore it, it kind of becomes like more potentially destructive than it could be, than if you just like sort of surrender to this energy and let it move through you in sort of your creative processes, especially with the sulfur card as well, right? There is an aspect here of like, there's something unpleasant about the situation, or having to leave a situation, or having to, I don't know, there's something here, especially here with the Nirvana card. The Nirvana card, because this is the both and energy of the sulfur, because in order for there to be bliss, right, there has to be suffering first, is kind of how that feels like, because it's kind of coming through the energy of like, sometimes bliss is just an absence of pain, right? It's like if you've been in pain for a long time, or if there's been like some sort of holding on of this energy, especially with, or something that's not holding on. If there's been any sort of overwhelm of anxiety or the moon energy of whatever that is, sometimes bliss is just the absence of this. It's like you finally are freed from whatever this energy is. And it could just be that, right? It could just be that you're being freed from some sort. It's also coming through here with the sulfur of detoxing, right? There's something, it's like you're detoxing from this energy, right? Something from the past, perhaps some sort of detox of this ash. But in order to like detox it, it almost has to like be re-experienced in some way. Because it's like if you've eaten something, sorry for getting graphic here, but it's like if you've eaten something, if you have some sort of food poisoning, it almost needs to like come up again, right? Like you have to like upchuck it in some way in order to be freed, because it's like because if you've ever, I'm sure almost everybody has, if you've ever had food poisoning, once that poisoning is out of your system, you feel so much better, right? But it's almost like the really unpleasant part of upchucking, because it's like you taste it again, all of that like just nastiness is just experienced again, maybe. But then bliss after that is kind of how that's feeling. And I want to say that once that happens, right? Once that sort of like detoxing or like cleansing or purging or however you want to experience this or like explain that, is you have here the Philosopher's Stone and the Empress, which I love so much. Because this is talking about, so the Philosopher's Stone talks about sort of like a new beginning, right? It's all of this Fool energy. It's talking about like, sort of like, because you know nothing, or because you're empty, perhaps, it's almost like you're free to start again kind of energy. Or it's like that's the best position you can be in order to create what it is that you're creating. Especially with the Empress coming in as kind of like this last energy here, which is really positive, I want to say. I feel like it, because it's kind of like there may be sort of this kick up of energy where it's like you're doing a lot, right? All of this action taking. So it could be that this detoxing kind of process is very active on your part. Like you're having to do a lot, or there's a lot of energy around you sort of being stirred up that you have to respond to, or you have to like react. But then after that, after sort of the fires are out, after sort of that detoxing or purging energy, it's like this feels like incredible quiet. This is the stillness energy. This is that sort of like being like, once you get home from the concert and your ears are ringing, but you can hear what it is that you're supposed to hear, is kind of how that's feeling. You're connecting with, or you're, because it's kind of like this star energy. It's like you're creating your dream is what that's feeling like. Once all of the toxins or the noise or the chaos or the whatever energies are gone, are released from your system or released from your energy, it's like it's quiet. And you can actually start working on what it is that you're supposed to be working on. Okay, Sagittarius. I'm going to leave the reading there. We're going to go to the extended and talk about what else you may need to know about this situation. If you're interested, just information is in the description box below. I'm also doing a sale on personal readings until April 19th. So if you're interested in that, information is also in the description box below. If this message resonated with you, please consider subscribing, liking, or leaving a comment. Thank you so much for sharing your energy with me, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.